Hi, welcome back to Weatherford Daze. This is Jason and Rachel back again. We are coming to you from the couch, from it's still the big comfy couch to me. And we are going to talk about dragons. We did I whisper that too much? Dragons. So we promised that before, and they always say that you're supposed to, the promises you make, you're supposed to fulfill them. Yes, supposed to, to pay off. It's promise and pay off is what I've heard. So we promised dragons, and hopefully we'll pay you off with a really good little conversation about dragons.
Turn into dragons. There you go. Conversation about dragons.
Yes,
we're not going to actually show you dragons, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm saying we promised dragons. We're going to give you dragons. No, we're not.
Well, if you go by Pete's dragon rules from the old Disney thing, he's totally invisible, right? And only certain people can see him or something.
Mm-hmm.
He's always like,
that's such a good movie.
Quick note. Did you like the remake or the original better?
The original.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yes. And, but I always liked the way he talked. He would like that. And that's going in the recording. He's great.
I don't know. Maybe I'll cut that part out.
But the combination between cartoon and real got better with Roger Rabbit, and it was okay in Pete's Dragon, but the story was the real good deal there. But anyway, the topic just isn't just dragons. The topic is, what about dragons? And you had mentioned something you want to talk about that.
Well, I thought it would be interesting to talk about how dragons conceptually have changed from in the past when they first started being brought into literature to how dragons are presented now.
Right, and they're not something that just got invented by fantasy literature or even any kind of literature. It's something that people told stories of in mythology, and then it kind of bled over into the fiction. So that's kind of where my brain goes, is where did it all begin? Is it how far back do we go?
I mean, there are dragons in the Bible.
Yes.
I can't fathom much earlier than that, but
in the surrounding areas in the Near East, you had different like Canaanite religions and different things like that. You would have a dragon-like creature. The Canaanites had the dualism of, you have Baal, the storm god, and you had a dragon or a beast-like creature. And you would always have the hero character defeating the beast-like creature. You would have Baal, and you have Lotan, and another of the monsters was named as Yam. Sounds like a delicious name. I'm a vegetarian, by the way, so that was a great name. And of course you have Leviathan, and in Babylon you had Tiamat and Marduk. So we talked about Dr. Heiser before, and Dr. Heiser's theory was that you had Yahweh triumphing over Leviathan, who they were always a symbol of chaos and unfettered power, not kept under God's strict design, but just out of bounds. And so and they were often ocean creatures, which is why Jesus walking on the water was such a thumbing of the nose to the storm god.
A lot of people have thought that the reality of actual dinosaurs that were described as dragons.
Yes.
And that was most likely where the whole mythology of dragons came from, was actual dragons. Not dragons, but dinosaurs.
Right. I was thinking about this driving home from work, and I was thinking, so when people talk about, we talked about a couple episodes, or 2 or 3 episodes ago, we talked about demons, and you can't really go, I don't know what you think, but you can't really go digging up bones and going, here's a bone of a demon or an angel. But you can dig up the bone of something that was the inspiration or close enough of an inspiration to dinosaurs, and a place where dinosaurs.
Do you mean dragons?
Wait, what did I say?
You said dinosaurs.
Oh, okay.
You can definitely dig up dinosaur bones,
Yeah,
but that's
that
the
inspired. They
right,
inspired dragons, right,
right.
and a huge cache of dinosaur bones. It's like rich with it is in China.
Mm-hmm.
And where do we get some of the earliest dragon?
Earliest dragon
It's
mythology.
Chinese stuff. It's the lung. It's the Chinese lung. And there's Asian dragons all over the place. And they're not like us. They are not like European Western dragons. They don't have wings. They're very long limbed, and their faces are kind of like lion almost looking. You remember they have in the Chinese New Year, they have the lion dragon thing, and it holds a pearl, or has a pearl in the middle of its forehead, and that's how it flies. And they're very wise creatures. And well, they can go either way. Some of them can go bad, go good, that kind of thing. And they were they're almost like celestial, divine, almost like godlike, because you would kind of leave something out for the dragons or something. It almost feels like, see, it fits in the way that the Chinese believed everything was all these creatures and things.
I think that it's interesting how you have just a beast that was typically seen as terrifying, and then when you have Revelation and you see that Satan was kind of described as a dragon, as the devourer, and you have that entire just chapter of Revelation that's describing this battle in the heavens where there's a dragon that's lying in wait for the woman who's pregnant to devour her child, right? And that she then escapes into the wilderness, and he's pursuing her, and so you have this intelligence behind the concept of a dragon. It's not simply a beast, it's literally Satan being.
Well, it says Satan, and earlier on it has a certain number of heads, a certain number of horns, and people have looked at how that mirrors Rome, because Rome, the color of red represented Rome, but the color of red, because great red dragon. I was looking this up. The color red also is blood, rage.
But I don't know that it
symbolic.
necessarily, because there's a dragon and there's a beast that has the different horns and the different heads, right? It's not the dragon that's described as having the horns and that's the beast.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I have to look that up. But why the color red? Because it's a color of rage and blood and fire. And so that's why those. But the through line is you get dragon, that great serpent. It even says that great that it even connects back to Genesis with the great serpent. So you've got serpent, dragon, and angel, and there's a big connection between those. And I never thought about that for the longest time. The connection is the word seraph, because the word in Hebrew means burning ones, or seraphim means burning ones, those who burn. And so they are fiery beings, angelic fiery beings. But in Genesis, it talks about these serpents that were these burning serpents. It's because of their bite. It was venomous. And they bit the children of Israel, and a bronze serpent was raised up. And that represents, we say that represents Christ. He said, if I be raised up, then all men, I draw all men to myself. So the bronze serpent is raised up, and everyone who looks upon it is healed of the bites. The word for serpent in that is burning, is like burning serpent. And burning serpent also connects back to seraph. It uses the same word. So the question is, and so there's some really interesting imagery there with this burning, fiery serpent, and that is the seraphim. And it's only until the medieval period that we actually see the drawings of them as a humanoid being with these wings all over. If you look at it as this flying serpent and a burning dragon.
Yes, it really does make sense how we got from there. It's like it's never been just that a dragon was a beast, a mindless beast, because you go over the progression of time. And I mean, what the way that Tolkien wrote Smaug was, I feel like, one of the first depictions of a truly intelligent dragon that had the ability to speak. I feel like that was a turning point, or at least it popularized
In
it. I don't know that
fiction,
he was
well,
right in fiction.
you get Fafnir from the Nibelungenlied, which is basically it's the ring. So it's talks about the ring, and it's Norse mythology, which is where Tolkien pulled his stuff.
Right.
So
right.
he probably patterned Smaug off of Fafnir,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole thing about the ring. I mean, he obviously pulled it from the Norse, Icelandic.
Is it the Epic of Gilgamesh that
Oh,
has a
it
there's some
might,
kind of
but
a beast, but
well,
it's not a
Babylonian.
dragonish beast, right?
In Babylonian, it's Tiamat, which there's actually in Dungeons and Dragons. There's a giant multi-headed dragon called Tiamat. Of course, they pulled from that. I don't know. I have read smatterings of Gilgamesh, and I have not read the whole thing, and I keep meaning to do it.
I don't think that's what I was thinking, actually. What is the one where the guy, he's like, there's a beast that keeps on sneaking into the village and like
Is
stealing?
It Beowulf?
Beowulf. Thank you.
Grendel
Was
and
that
Grendel's mother.
Was Grendel
it's
more
possible.
of a dragon, or more of like some kind of a water?
Grendel was more of a Grendel was the actual Grendel was more of a like an ogre kind of creature. Oh, I'm getting real Nephilim vibes off of that one. But Grendel's mother was more draconic.
Okay, I was thinking so.
And so it's interesting that draconic is angelic, and then you have Grendel as a Nephilim kind of guy. But he came into it was the Danes. I think it was the Danes, was it? The Denmark Danish people, and he would come in and he would steal people out of they would have the feasts, and Grendel would come, and they would all like hole up in there afraid of Grendel because he'd come and steal people away and chow down on them and stuff.
It felt very much like the Vikings long haul.
Yeah, thank you.
Type of situation.
100%. Yeah, those are some of the earliest.
Yeah, Beowulf was what I was thinking. Epic of Gilgamesh is the Noah story, right?
It has elements of it, yeah.
I don't know that there's any dragonish creature in
There's elements of Gilgamesh that even cross over into the whole Nephilim, the early Nephilim, because the Babylonians have their own thing with the Nephilim. They call them Apkallu, or the Watchers that come and fall in love with the human women.
You've got Apkallu. That early, this idea of the dragons and the beast. And, for a long time, I felt like, the only stories that you got about dragons was the knights that would go and try and fight against them. And
St. George, I think St. George, a famous saint, he's always depicted as stabbing a dragon with a lance.
But I don't know that there was necessarily, this intelligence to them.
Some of them, yes.
But like a human-like intelligence to them. And that there always kind of has been somewhat from the biblical depiction of the great dragon that's lying in wait, that has a very definite intelligence. You see that coming through, and then you see, Tolkien depicting Smaug, who again has this very human intelligence and ability to speak. I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of change in dragons through all of that. It was always a dragon was evil. A dragon was cunning. A dragon was terrifying.
If you think of a seraph as sort of like a holy purifying fire, and that being godlike and fire in a purifying holy way, and then you take it and make it fallen, then you've got the beasts that can breathe fire, but they always bring fire not as a wisdom or a purifying, but as a pain and destruction.
Yeah, but the way that you had that evil, dragons were purely evil in the past, to the progression over time. Even with Tolkien, it was still Smaug is evil. All dragons are evil.
He's greedy. He's
And
yeah.
then somewhere in that time period, we've changed too. And I don't know if it was, isn't there a Dragon Riders book that became really popular?
It's Dragon Riders of Pern or something like
Dragon
that.
Riders of
It's Anne
Pern.
McCaffrey. I keep wanting to
Hmm.
read it, but there's
Yeah.
so many books. I kind of
I feel like somewhere in there is when there was this turning point of now instead of dragons are evil to dragons are cool. And
Do you
dragons are not.
remember the Reluctant Dragon from the 50s in Disney? There was
Mm,
a Disney short cartoon that had a dragon in it, and he was kind of, friendly looking, or they made it cartoony.
mhm,
And then you get Puff the Magic Dragon, the famous song from the 60s, which who knows if
right.
that was about drugs or not.
And you've got Pete's dragon, and you've got, to now, more often than not, dragons aren't evil terrors. Dragons are huge horses that fly, or even more than that, I mean, because you've got
Dogs? Are they,
How to
because,
Train Your
yeah,
Dragon,
because you remember
right?
Toothless almost acts like a dog.
Right. So it's just if you can actually tame a dragon, train a dragon, then you have this incredible ability to ride a dragon. You can now fly.
What about a luck dragon? Falcor from
Hmm.
Neverending Story. We could name a lot of these. Aragon had Sapphira, and he was flying on that. There was a bad dragon that the villain flew on.
Right.
So yeah,
But while there are
I don't know where the
bad
turning point was.
dragons, it's kind of like people. It's not that dragons are evil by their nature, it's that there's dragons that are good and there are dragons that are bad. And, just like people, there's probably more good dragons than there are bad dragons.
I was telling you before about Dungeons and Dragons has metallic dragons, which are good,
Hmm.
like bronze, gold, silver. And then you have the bad ones are called the chromatics, and they are like red, green, black, white, blue. And so they can make the good dragon, or there's even fairy dragons. You have fairy dragons and good and and metallics, and then the chromatics, and then you can have undead dracoliches and all kind of crazy stuff. So it's that their way of going. Here's the good and here's the bad in the same, and you can deal with them how you want in your story.
Hmm.
But I mean,
I really find it interesting how I feel like the concept of good and even neutral dragons has been a purely 21st century thing. It's not something that you saw ever before that. Before that, it was always dragons are evil.
so the question is it coming full circle? Because if you look at the seraph as using that burning serpent, holy fire, winged imagery, and then it falls, and then you've got the big red dragon, and you've got Leviathan and Tannins and all these horrible things, and Smaugs and Glaurungs and all this kind of stuff, and then it comes back around, and aren't they acting angelic again? That's what hit me as I was like,
I
are we
mean,
going full circle with it?
I don't know whether it's completely full circle. I do find it, well, even just looking at the change between Tolkien and his dragons and how Lewis presented dragons in Chronicles of
Yes,
Narnia.
please. I know you wanted to talk about this. I want to hear.
Well, I think the first time that you see dragons in Chronicles of Narnia is in The Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Mm.
And I mean, Eustace is changed into a dragon,
Used to
right?
scrub. Yeah.
Eustace Scrub. And it's a very, very symbolic scene, the way that it happens. Because dragons are seen as selfish. They're creatures that hoard gold, right?
That's very
And
Tolkien-esque.
right. And I mean, I think was a pretty common
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
that dragons were portrayed is they can fly, they can breathe fire, and they're going to grab gold and
Hoard
hoard it,
gold. Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
So Eustace falls asleep on this island. Like he wanders off from the rest of the group. He finds a cave that he goes inside. He's tired. He realizes that it's full of all of this gold. And then as he's laying there, like he falls asleep on this gold, he slips this golden bracelet onto his
Right. I
arm.
thought he took something, if I remember
Right.
correctly. Yeah.
He puts on a golden bracelet. He's all like, okay, I'm going to be rich. I'm so excited. He's planning how he's going to take all of this gold back to his world. And he falls asleep on top of the gold and then wakes up and sees smoke. And he's like, oh my goodness, there's a new creature, because he watches one that dies. Actually, like he stumbles on one and there's a dragon there, and the dragon dies as he's watching. Like he's terrified at first, but the dragon's obviously sick and old and dies. And so he's like, oh cool, I can take all the treasure. The dragon's dead. He turns into a dragon, but it like takes him a minute to realize that it's not another one of the beast come back. It's actually, he's seeing the smoke from his own nostrils that's coming up. Right. Then it's this whole thing of him having to live for a while as a dragon, being afraid that the rest of his friends are going to leave him. He hasn't really given them any reason to be loyal to him because he's treated all of them really poorly.
Can he not communicate with them? I think is part of it.
He can't speak in his dragon form. He can, like, he scratches in the sand on the beach so he can write, but it's very clumsy. He's trying to maneuver, and they figure out by him, like, nodding yes and no that he's Eustace. They're kind of stuck there for a while. They're going, we're not going to leave him, but we don't know what to do because there's no way he'll fit on their ship. They don't know how far it is. It's not like he can just fly. They don't know how far it's going to be until they come to land again. So they're kind of stuck until eventually one night, Aslan, the lion, shows up and takes Eustace and has him basically scratch his skin off. He's like, he says, I think he takes him to a pool of water and says, first you need to take off your clothes. And Eustace is like, what? I'm not wearing clothes. And he's like, figures out, well, he needs to like shed a layer of skin, right? Like a snake,
right.
Sheds his skin, right? So he managed to get some of it off, and he peels off an outer layer. And Aslan's like, nope, that's not enough. You need more. And so he tries again and again. And then Aslan's like, nope, I need to do it myself. And Eustace is afraid. It's like this lion has these sharp claws. And Aslan actually takes and like digs and peels off this huge layer of skin. And I don't know, just the symbolism of like, we can't do it ourselves. We need Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's that, taking off the old garments and being transformed by Christ is that symbolism of, just shedding the evil that we've put on, that we embody. Yeah, the lion takes off this huge amount of skin, and it stings, it hurts. And then he throws him into the water. Then he comes out and he's transformed back into a boy.
It's a little bit of a baptism motif if you think about it.
Yeah.
Well, the snake has even in many different cultures represented new birth or change, growth because of its shedding of its skin. They didn't really connect it completely with evil. They connect it with, oh look, it's molting and look what it does, and it becomes new because it sheds the old, and that's how we need to be. So that's interesting that he uses that serpentine kind of molting as part of that lesson there. So the use of a mythological, Lewis is always using mythological creatures and things like that to make a point. Like he always said that mythology was truth. Okay. The quote is that Lewis told Tolkien that myths were lies, though he admitted lies breathed through silver. So the only true myth is, of course, Christ. that's where we differ. So the question that I have is, you would think that, well, you think that everything's going full circle and that they're just echoing the most ancient of imagery they're bringing the draconic back to the angelic. But the thing is, though, I don't think that's the purpose of these people that are making, not, I'd say Lewis and Tolkien have a different way to go about it. But in the more making the same spirit is the same spirit that takes these demon characters and makes them more neutral and more human. And we take dragons and make them more like animal or human. Are they just trying to normalize the great red dragon motif? They're not necessarily taking it back to the angelic. They're taking it back to the fallen angelic in a way. Or are they getting us kind of used to the dragon? And then, hey, no big deal. And then the dragon imagery would start showing up, and it's now the end of days, and we're like, hey, buddy. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Does that seem like a strange thing?
To me, it seemed more just like, I think that we don't like to necessarily demonize anyone. We, just like when we talked about the demon episode.
Yeah.
That there is this shift from taking everything and, just having a pure evil to having, we want to give these motives and this humanity. It's almost humanizing and seeing everything kind of through the lens of our own humanity, and going, well, because humans have the capacity for choosing both good or evil, we want to be able to say that even a demon has the ability to choose good or evil. And we like to say, well, there are demons and there are angels, and maybe there's the capacity for a demon to choose good, just like there is for the capacity for an angel to choose evil, rather than saying, well, maybe that choice was made long ago and it's now set in stone. Maybe they don't necessarily have the ability to choose any longer.
That's generally more the way the Bible,
right?
And
the way the Bible presents
and
it
Jewish
is,
belief is
they had their choice at the very beginning, and because of their knowledge of God that we don't have, and the length of their lives, that choice has been made and it's set now. And
we do have a different station, a more elevated station, right, which they say that's why Satan fell, was because of his jealousy of the way we were treated. But I feel
like we try and do that with dragons too, and I think that's pretty much anything. When we look at aliens, when we look at, you look at Star Trek and how they went out into the world, and we basically look at all of these new civilizations and everything that we can think of as humans. I feel like we don't have the capacity to create something completely other. Everything that we create, we put undertones of humanity to it.
Like allegories for human existence.
Right. But it seems like every new alien civilization that was supposedly discovered in this TV series,
yeah,
there's always these elements of humanity that are still being reflected. Yeah. And so, it's kind of there's nothing new under the sun.
That's a whole nother episode in and of itself. Right. We did talk about that in the space episode a little bit. We talked about, some of those new worlds.
But I think that's what's happened with dragons too, is we don't like this concept of having just a being that's purely evil. We want to be able to say, just as much as there may be evil dragons, maybe we just don't understand them. Maybe it's that we're lacking in understanding. And if we understand them, then we can see them as neutral, or even there's good.
And we're telling a human story ultimately when we do that.
And it's the same thing as, as we've spread out and we've seen, as humans, we saw new cultures. And at first, we looked at people who were other than us as, uncivilized and
Savages and brutal.
savages,
Yeah.
right?
We just didn't
And
understand their lifestyle.
right. I mean, it's the whole Pocahontas thing, the Disney's Pocahontas, right? The
Right.
story of, well, you call us savages, but you just don't understand us, and if
And
you
you have your own
understand us,
savagery.
then
Yeah.
right, right. And, that's really, I feel like along the same lines as what we as humans want to do with everything. We don't want to look at anything as being just completely evil in and of itself. We want to look at it and say, there's got to be some good in it if we understand it more. And I mean, most of the time, I would say that is true.
And
I don't know that we can necessarily do that with the demonic.
no. And I think people are more forgiving as to how you treat. If you had a book where they go into dragons and stuff like that, people are like, okay. But if you start saying it's a demon, and then you start, because literally it is spelled out in the Bible and in Judeo-Christian belief system about demons and angels, and people get their hackles start rising, whatever those are, start rising up, and you start going, I don't know. But if you had a story about dragons and all that stuff, it's in the realm of fantasy, because it's left its original place of this weighty mythological, bigness of it. I think two things. When I looked up some media. I won't name them all. I can't. I looked up some media, some books that had dragons and fantasy stuff, and the pages went on and on and on and on. I went, when is it going to end? And the movies that have to do with dragons were like this, and the books were just like every title was like dragon, dragon. So it is a fascination with fantasy lovers and sci-fi lovers all over the world of just this, because they're just kind of cool.
They are. And that's the thing, you can have unicorns that are just mystical and beautiful, and, little girls fall in love with them. But dragons, I think everybody of every age has the capacity to fall in love with the idea
And they're
of
mixes of different things.
right. And
You get
whether
that benefit of that mix.
and I think that it adds to the fascination, the concept that they are intelligent creatures, that they have a humanoid, or like, sometimes even a more than human intelligence.
And this is not true of the way dragons have always been portrayed in different ways. You have some that are more serpent-like. You have some that do not have wings, and you have some, that have 4 legs, and then you have some that have 2 legs and wings, and then you have, the 4 legs and the wing. So
And that's not even going into the dragon shifters that have now become an entire genre.
I don't know how I feel about those things, but
I mean, if you're going to have werewolves or wolf shifters, and then cat shifters and bear shifters and all of the other types of shifters, why not have dragon shifters too?
Well, dragons have
Because
traditionally had the ability in some belief
no
systems
more
about polymorphing.
epic beast.
They can change into a human and walk amongst people. But speaking, okay,
That really does. Like, that's where you end it. If you're going to try to humanize a creature, you give them human or even greater than human intelligence, and you give them, you're going from taking them to being intelligent but evil to intelligent and good. And then even a lot of mythos have put dragons as like they're the wisest of all creatures and they should be at the very top of the food chain. Then yeah, that's where you're going to end, is humans changing to dragons and back, as
Or I thought it was dragons that would change into humans to hide because magic was going away or something like that. Magic is
it's like a wolf shifter is it's a human that has the ability to change into a wolf. A dragon shifter is going to be a human that has the ability to change into a dragon.
That's worse because I think how big. Usually, a werewolf might get like 8 foot tall or something like that. When they have the half form. But a person turning into a dragon, I mean, they could just destroy a city.
But I mean, there is book upon book upon book upon book that deals with dragon shifters. It's a huge section of fiction.
But you have to be careful with those shifter books because of any kind, whether they go into werewolves or metamorphing or anything like that, because there's always this little sliver of the spice that you want to stay away from. I
Oh
always
yeah.
I always thought that like how.
But
Yikes.
that is the nice thing is pretty much any type of genre of books that there's the really
Yeah.
spicy books. There's also clean books that, same genre, just clean. And there's people that enjoy writing in all of those genres.
I have a thing you might disagree with, and that is I have a favorite dragon,
Okay.
and it's Godzilla. Okay,
Godzilla a dragon.
He's a giant dinosaurian-looking creature with the big spines on his back, and he breathes fire. Oh, but his nemesis is
But he
King.
doesn't fly.
There's one movie where he does, and it's the most ridiculous, dumb thing you've ever thought. So here's where I come at this. Is in the first, and I'll go quickly, I know because this is probably going to melt your brain. So the first Godzilla, he was very much a representation of nature mutated by radiation and atomic bomb. He was a personification of the horrors of atomic war, and Japan was getting out of World War II, and so of course that was. So there was no goodness in this creature. It was pure evil, right? It mimics the timeline you're talking about, where a couple movies in, he's now friend to children everywhere. They're going, yeah, Godzilla, stop the bad monster from destroying Tokyo. And so you get this, and then it comes around to the modern era, and they're like, let's take him back to his roots and make him scary again. And yet he still has these elements of almost a godlike. You're like, oh, let's stay back, run. Stay. He's doing his thing, but there's an awe about it. So to me it felt like that's the way we see dragons, is they were this scary force of nature, and then we kind of made them more familiar and
You know what I think it is, though?
funny and fun.
I mean, when you think of Pete's dragon and the story that's told there,
Mm-hmm.
I think that really personifies or typifies why dragons have evolved the way that they have.
Okay.
Remember the quote, children are always going to know that there are dragons, but they also need to know and I'm generalizing,
Chesterton.
right? Chesterton.
Yeah.
That dragons can be fought, that
Can
they
be
can be
defeated.
overcome. I think that there's also a part of us that we want to know not only that there are dragons, that there's evils out there and they can be defeated. We want children to know when they're overwhelmed, when they've seen too much, that not only are there bad dragons that can be defeated, but there are dragons who are on your side, who will protect you. It's that idea of going, yes, there is great evil out there in the world, but there's also great good. And children can have this, they can have a protector, someone that's so much bigger and so much stronger and so much more just the wise and powerful. And we want to be that for our kids, I think. Is we want to be the one who protects our children. We want them to know that we'll be that one that's standing against the world, against that great evil. Because in reality, the dragons are humans, the ones that are so evil that are going to have to be overcome. The worst things the worst situations that our children are most likely going to come up against. The big bads, they're humans. Most of the time, the
We're the
ones are going to
monsters.
hurt. Yeah, we're the monsters. We
It sounds
also
like we're
want
talking
to
about
be the
Doctor Who,
ones that
because
are,
don't they always make
but
it
we
like we're
also
the
want to be
worst?
the ones that are the best too, that are the
Yeah.
protectors. And so we don't want to just paint this hugely overpowered evil beast. We want to paint the beast that's good, that can protect, and I feel like that's the entire message of Pete's dragon, isn't it? That the dragon was there with him for as long as he needed to know that somebody big was on his side.
Right.
And the dragon disappeared when the humans took over, when he had humans on his side. And it's kind of, yeah, that's the entire point, I think, of why we make dragons good.
And the dragon was invisible, so it's in the world of mythological beings, and and also there are awesome beings that we cannot see, and when they appear, one of the first things they say is, "Be not afraid, fear not," because they have that ability to strike awe into you, and when they reveal themselves. And so the thing is, you've got somebody on your side. There are things going on in this other realm that you don't even know about. And I wonder if we have brought things down to our level, and that's why we see the dragon the way we do. And maybe there's a deeper root to it. Speculation. There's a deeper thing, that or concept, that the dragon is just a reflection of, or like it's when you drop a rock in the lake,
it's a psychological concept.
It's the ripples. Yeah, it's the ripples. Yeah.
And I think that anytime that you talk about evil, we always say, yeah, there's great evil, but God is so much bigger. There's great good on our side. And if you're going to talk about dragons, you don't want to just have evil dragons. You want to have good dragons too. You want to have the protectors.
You want to have a gronkleback. What are those things called? What are they called? If you watch How to Train Your Dragon, he goes through all the different names of the different things. Stickle head, gronkle back.
Oh, you're just making stuff up.
Hey, I might be. My kids know those way better than I do. But yes, there are some great examples of some awesome dragons that are on the side of the angels, so to speak. And there are some they're horrible and need to be laid low. And that's why I play Dungeons and Dragons, so I can pretend doing it every couple of weeks.
And that's why, I taught our kids about the invisible dragon protectors. Our oldest daughter, had an invisible dragon named Crystal. It was her imaginary friend.
That's right. Yeah. Crystal, I don't know if Crystal is friends with George, but we didn't tell them about George. Whenever something's missing or something weird happens in the house, we say it was George, and just like a ghost.
George is our family ghost, yes.
I think George is an excuse for when I leave my keys somewhere and I have to come all the way back and look for them, or we're hunting for my lanyard for like 30 minutes. It's George.
George is also the excuse for all the strange noises that happen too.
That
wasn't me. That was George.
No, that was me. But anyway.
Oh, are we going to have an episode about ghosts now?
Mm-hmm. Because I have plenty of.
All right.
It's just angels and demons.
I think that we have run out of time for today. So.
But we had fun. But now it's making me want to watch some really cool stuff about dragons now. So I think that's what we'll find some time this week to do that.
Well, I hope that you guys have enjoyed coming along with us on that journey. And if you have anything to add, please do. Hit that like, hit that subscribe.
Put your favorite dragon imagery or books or stuff, or they're your favorite stuff in the comments. I like reading those, by the way. Keep them coming.
And we will see you next week. Bye.